just minutes ago, intense evidence emerged suggesting that yesterday's attacks in Hormuz were a false flag operation. The U.S. is not only said to have staged the attack on the South Korean ship, but also to have sunk civilian Iranian ships under false pretenses. And if that's really true, then Donald Trump is done for. Let's look at this strong evidence. And stay until the end, because there's a bonus regarding yesterday's missile attacks on the United Arab Emirates. Already yesterday evening, I reported in my live stream about the intense developments in the Strait of Hormuz, and I suggested that Donald Trump only sent U.S. destroyers through the Strait of Hormuz to provoke an attack from Iran. Because consider this, throughout the entire war, U.S. ships stayed miles away from the Iranian coast because they were afraid of Iranian missiles, and Trump didn't want to risk any ships. And now suddenly, Donald Trump is sailing 2 large guided missile destroyers directly through the heavily defended Iranian stronghold. That's no coincidence, is it? For me, it already strongly reeked of a false flag operation last night, and the U.S. destroyers were the bait, because if Iran were to sink a U.S. destroyer, then Donald Trump would finally have a reason for a major war and a ground offensive. Well, what can I say? Last night, further evidence emerged that, for me, strengthens the suspicion that we have just become live witnesses to a massive false flag operation. Specifically, it's about 2 different reports, and let's start directly with the huge bombshell, because that will really knock you off your feet. Yesterday evening, all media reported that Iran, with its fast boats, attacked both U.S. warships and civilian merchant ships of the United Arab Emirates and also from South Korea. And based on that, the Americans then fired back and heroically destroyed the 6 Iranian fast boats. The British Independent, for example, wrote the following: "The USA claims to have sunk 6 Iranian boats that attacked civilian ships." Or the Wall Street Journal also wrote the following: "Trump calls on South Korea to join the fight in the Strait of Hormuz." President Trump called on South Korea to join the fight in the Strait of Hormuz after Iran fired upon a South Korean cargo ship attempting to navigate the waterway. And even U.S. President Trump himself literally wrote the following on Truth Social: "In connection with shipping traffic as part of Project Freedom, Iran attacked innocent nations, including a South Korean cargo ship. We shot down 7 small fast boats." So, you see, the narrative is the same everywhere. Iran, with its fast boats, attacked civilian ships that wanted to escape through the Strait of Hormuz, and then the Americans shot down these evil fast boats. The Americans are the great saviors, and Donald Trump is the hero. Now all nations in the world can finally rally behind the great savior, Donald Trump, and Donald Trump finally gets the big victory he desperately needs to conclude the Iran war. The only problem is that this story is apparently once again a complete lie, and it's now blowing up in Donald Trump's face. The news portal Reuters just wrote the following: "South Korea investigates ship fire in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump blames Iran." What? Why is South Korea now investigating the ship fire and explosions on its own ship? Trump said the South Korean ship was attacked by Iran. So the situation is completely clear, isn't it? Why doesn't South Korea trust Trump? What do they know that we don't? Let's read on. Seoul announced on Tuesday that authorities would investigate the cause of an explosion and fire on a South Korean-operated ship in the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. President Donald Trump blamed an Iranian attack for the incident. The exact cause of the accident will be determined after the ship has been towed and the damage assessed, the South Korean Foreign Ministry stated in a statement. The Panamanian-flagged cargo ship of the South Korean shipping company, HM, was empty and at anchor when the explosion and fire occurred on Monday. Wow, I can't believe it. So South Korea has confirmed that its own cargo ship was, firstly, empty, and, secondly, also at anchor, meaning it wasn't moving at all. It was not on its way through the Strait of Hormuz. And here again is the passage from the Wall Street Journal. President Trump called on South Korea to join the fight in the Strait of Hormuz after Iran fired upon a South Korean cargo ship that was attempting to navigate the waterway. So why on earth are Donald Trump and the Wall Street Journal saying that the South Korean ship was trying to pass through and escape the Strait of Hormuz and was therefore fired upon by Iran, but South Korea says that's not true at all? The ship wasn't moving and was at anchor. Why is Donald Trump just inventing some story here that can't be true at all? Well, it's quite simple. Donald Trump just needed a reason to attack the Iranian ships. And it's perfect that, purely by chance, explosions occurred on the South Korean ship, which could then be used as a reason for attack. And I'll tell you one thing, if the South Koreans now start their investigations and find out that these explosions on the South Korean ship were a false flag operation and perhaps even staged by the Americans to fake an Iranian attack, then all hell will break loose. And that's why we come to the second report, which is directly related and gets even more intense, because Donald Trump claims that the Americans shot down 6 Iranian military boats because they allegedly fired at the South Korean ship. But now it turns out that the Americans apparently lied about that too. They didn't sink 6 Iranian military ships, but apparently these were accidentally civilian Iranian ships, or perhaps even deliberately Iranian civilian ships. The Iranian news agency, Tasnim, wrote the following. According to a source, 2 small cargo boats were attacked by the U.S. An attack on Revolutionary Guard speedboats is denied. In a clearly criminal act, the U.S. military fired at 2 small cargo boats instead of the Revolutionary Guard speedboats. A military source told Tasnim it was determined that American forces attacked 2 small boats with passengers that were traveling from Qasab on the coast of Oman towards the Iranian coast. The source noted that 5 civilian passengers were killed in the U.S. attack, adding, "The Americans will absolutely be held accountable for this crime." Holy cow, this is getting crazier and crazier, and if that's really true, then that's a complete disaster for the Americans. And for Donald Trump, I mean, they already lied about the attack on the girls' school. And now possibly again. And of course, it must be said that this news comes from the Iranian state newspaper and could be pure propaganda. So one must take it with a grain of salt. But the fact is, Donald Trump already lied about the South Korean ship and used that lie as a pretext for the attack on the Iranian military boats. And if those weren't even military boats, but even civilian boats, then I wouldn't be surprised at all. The big question is, why on earth is Donald Trump sending his huge U.S. guided missile destroyer through the Strait of Hormuz precisely now, even though he stayed away from it throughout the entire war for fear of attacks? And why is he also lying now about the attack on the South Korean civilian ship? So, I have an extremely bad feeling that something entirely different is behind this than what they want us to believe. Something truly dirty is happening here, and I'm really looking forward to the investigation results from the South Korean government. And I will, of course, keep you updated. And that's why we now come, in conclusion, to intense news from the United Arab Emirates, because our German media reported yesterday, non-stop, that Iran had once again attacked the poor Emirates, and the Emirates are the innocent victims. However, several media reports already emerged yesterday that the attacks by the Americans on the 6 Iranian speedboats were carried out from the Emirates and the helicopters launched from the U.S. base there. The United Arab Emirates are therefore actively involved in the attack, and this also fits with the fact that, purely by coincidence, the Emirates concluded a new defense alliance with Israel last week. Al-Madin wrote the following: "The United Arab Emirates are expanding their cooperation with Israel as part of a partnership. Reports indicate that the Emirates are expanding their defense and intelligence cooperation with Israel, including advanced weapon systems and U.S.-approved arms deals." And it also fits that Israel has now seriously delivered part of its Iron Dome to the United Arab Emirates. According to Axios, citing a U.S. official, Israel has sent an Iron Dome battery, manned by Israel Defense Forces soldiers, to the United Arab Emirates to support air defense. According to the report, the move came after Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke by phone with the Emirati president, and the battery subsequently intercepted dozens of missiles. This is the first time the system has been deployed outside Israel and the United States, and that, my dear viewers, you need to let sink in. So, Israel sends its precious Iron Dome system, including Israeli soldiers, to the Emirates. Israel is now operating with its own soldiers in the middle of the United Arab Emirates, less than 100 miles from Iran, and this happens shortly before Iranian ships are attacked. And, sorry, but it doesn't get any more obvious than that. The Emirates are playing the innocent victim here while they are already right in the middle of it and clearly a party to the war. So, no wonder they got hit by Iranian missiles again yesterday. Because they were the only ones, by the way, yesterday. There were no missiles from Saudi Arabia, no missiles on Kuwait, none on Qatar, and so on, only on the United Arab Emirates. And now you know why. So, my dear viewers, what do you think? How deeply are the Emirates already involved in this war? And what do you all say about Donald Trump's blatant lies regarding the alleged attack on the South Korean ship? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments below the video, and also share the video with all your friends, because they definitely won't see such information on the Tagesschau.